How do you structure your Google Ads search campaigns for best results? In this video, I'm going to show you the method that I use for all the campaigns that I manage, which has worked consistently well every time. So basically, I've put together this graph here to show you the basic outline structure of how your Google Ads should be set up. Now, there's a couple of important things to note here, which I'm going to go through with you. I'm going to explain why you should set it up in this manner in order to get the results. So first of all, you've got the account. Obviously, that's the Google Ads account, so that's just one section. Now, within the account, you can have multiple campaigns. Now, the campaigns are going to depend on a few factors of whether you should just have one campaign or multiple. So at the campaign level, you can set things like budget, location, the bidding type for that campaign. So for instance, maximize clicks or maximize conversions. You can't have multiple bidding strategies in one campaign. The ads schedule, so when the ads show, and devices at the campaign level, which you can also adjust at the ad group level. I'll go into that later. Now with the campaigns, these settings are going to dictate how many campaigns you need to make. So if you're targeting multiple locations, you have no choice but to make multiple campaigns unless you want to run them all in the same campaign. But then all your data is going to be mixed up and it's going to be very difficult for you to differentiate what's working and what isn't. So ultimately, what I would recommend you do is separate the campaigns based on these things. So for instance, if the setting is only available at the campaign level, like location or budget or bidding type, I would set different campaigns for each of those. And then that way you'll be able to split test and see what is going on, which ones are working better and which ones are not. So within the campaign, you've got the ability to make ad groups. So these are essentially folders within the campaign that you can separate your ads into. Now, the main thing with these is usually going to be keywords because you want the ads to be as close to the keywords as possible. So typically speaking, you want to differentiate your ad groups based on keyword. That's usually what they're there for. Now, there's a couple of other specific settings as well you have at the ad group level. So we mentioned keywords. You've also got assets, which are things like structured snippets, the price add-ons, call extensions, and things like that. You've got the ads themselves, obviously, which you can put inside each ad group. And you've got the devices, which can be filtered at the ad group level as well. And you've also got audience settings, which you can put at the ad group level. And that's if you're using audience settings. So what I recommend you do is that you filter the ad groups based on the keywords. Now, I've spoken more about this in my keyword research video. I'm going to put a link above to that video there. So you should go watch that. And I'm going to explain to you how you should separate all of the different keywords for these ad groups in that video. But basically what you want to do is you want to split the ad group into the keyword, and then the ad should be targeting as closely as possible to those keywords. And I'm going to show you some examples of this in a minute so you'll get a better understanding of what I'm talking about. But then within the ad group, you will have ads. So your ad variations. So a lot of people usually just do one main ad with a bunch of different headlines and descriptions. What I like to do is I like to make the ad, if it's a responsive search ad, and only have headline 1, 2, and 3, and I pin them to the location, and then I have description 1 and 2 and pin them to the specific locations so that they have to show in that order. And then I have 3 of those so that I can test different variations myself and then drop the ones that don't work as well and make better ones. And I find that works better than just letting Google do its thing. Sometimes just throwing a bunch of variations and letting Google decide works as well, but usually it doesn't work as good as doing it manually if you optimize this. And then the final step of this is the landing page. And now you want to typically have the landing page matching the theme of the ad group, so for that specific keyword. So again, I'm going to show you this example in a second, but this is what the overview looks like. So if we go now to an example, I'm going to give you 2 examples. This one's a more basic example, and then I'm going to give you a more complicated example. So the first one is, let's say it's a plumbing business. You've got the account, as we said, which is going to be the same. Then we've got 2 different campaigns based on 2 different themes. So one is for plumbing services and one is for water heaters. Now, within each of these campaigns, you've got 2 separate ad groups based on the theme of the keywords. So let's say we've got new plumbing as one service and leaking taps as another service. So within each of these ad groups, you would want to have the specific keywords to this particular thing. So leaking taps, my tap leaks, fix leaking tap, that would go into this ad group. And into this one would be like new plumbing installation, new plumbing system, plumbing installers, things like that, right? That would go into the new plumbing system. And then within each of these ad groups, you would have ads specifically targeting those keywords. So if it's leaking taps, you would have 3 ad variations that all specifically talk about leaking taps. And then all of those ads go to a leaking tap page. That's how that would work. So you are essentially making a funnel or a silo for each of these topics. Now, the same thing with the new plumbing. You would have 3 ad variations talking about new plumbing and then going to a page talking about new plumbing. So what you want to try and do is make sure that this is congruent all the way through, so that when someone searches a topic, they see an ad about that specific topic and then they land on a page talking about that specific topic as well. And if you do that correctly, and the closer you can get to the keyword and the specific thing they searched, the higher your conversion rate is going to be. Now, these are 2 other examples here under water heaters. You've got Rheem water heaters and Rinnai water heaters. So these are 2 different brands. So I wanted to show you this example because water heaters is similar, but you've got 2 different brands. And then you would also have different types as well. So that's a separate thing. But let's say we have one that's Rheem water heaters. Then under that, you would have ads talking about Rheem water heaters. And then you would send them to a Rheem water heaters landing page. And then the same thing for Rinnai. You would have ads talking about Rinnai water heaters, and you'd send them to a Rinnai water heater landing page. Now, as a second example, this one is a little bit more complex. So I've made this one a bit larger. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do one section at a time. I've included 2 separate examples here because there are multiple ways you can do this. So obviously you've got the main account at the top. Now let's say for the first example, we've got family law. So they're offering family law services and they want to advertise to those. Under that, you've got a bunch of different keyword variations that you could target individually. So instead of just making a family law ad group like we would have done in the example above, we're now splitting these into the specific keyword variations. And so the more you do this, the higher your conversion rate is going to be overall because it's more specific. Now, it takes more time to split this up into each individual keyword and make individual ads for each one in individual landing pages. And a lot of the time, it's actually not worth going to this extent because it's only going to be a minor incremental increase in results. So this is going to depend greatly on what it is you're advertising, what your competition is like, and things like that, and how much effort you want to put into it. But this is how you could do it in a more in-depth way. So you would split the ad groups into each specific keyword variation. So let's say, for instance, family court lawyers, and that could be set to either exact match or phrase match. So it's very similar. And then you could have family attorney as another one, family lawyer as another one, and family law firm as another one. And now if you did this, you would want to make sure that each ad within each of these ad groups focuses only on that keyword and has that keyword in the headline. So for instance, family law firm, you would make sure that each of these ads say family law firm in the headline. And that's going to increase your click-through rate astronomically if you do that. Now, same thing with family lawyer. You would make sure that you have family lawyer in each headline and so on for each of these. And now each of these would go to a specific page that talks specifically about that. So you could do that if you wanted to. Again, this would mean having to set up specific landing pages that specifically have that keyword, let's say, in the headline. However, that's usually unnecessary, but I wanted to point out that you can do that if you want to go to that extent. This is essentially the ultimate structure of a search campaign, that you have a individual keyword ad group, a few variations for that individual keyword, and then a landing page about that specific keyword. And I'm not meaning the theme of keywords. I mean specifically the keyword family court lawyers. Those exact 3 words. If you had the ads with those exact 3 words and then the landing page with those exact 3 words, you could expect the best results from that setup. However, again, like I said, now you could be talking hundreds, if not thousands of different variations of landing pages and so on. Most of the time, it's not worth doing that. But this is the ultimate setup. Now, to give you a separate example, you could also do this, which usually works out better in terms of efficiency. So you would have divorce as a topic, so specifically divorce. You would have individual keyword ad groups. So divorce lawyer, divorce attorney, best divorce lawyers, cheap divorce lawyers. And so each of these would have just that keyword in the ad group set to either exact or phrase match, depending on how you want to do it. Then you would have each of those ads with that specific keyword in the ad's headline and in the ad. So the ad's talking about that. But then they all go to the same page, which is the divorce page, because this page more or less covers these particular things, especially if you make sure that you have these keywords obviously on the page. So in main headlines, let's say you can have a section that talks about best divorce lawyers and then or cheap divorce lawyers. You would want to make sure that you have all that content on this page. But as long as you do, this is typically the more efficient route to go, because you don't need to go and set up, tens, if not hundreds of landing pages for each keyword. You set up one landing page, it covers the whole thing. And so by doing the separate ad groups, you get a really good click-through rate, but they still find what they're looking for here. So if you find that you get poor results doing it this way, then I would put the effort into setting this up. But usually, like I said, in 9 times out of 10, this is actually not efficient to do it this way and is not worth the effort. However, in some instances, you could do this. So what does this actually look like in a Google Ads campaign? So I'm going to show you an example of an ad account. So this is an ad account for a concreting company. They're offering concreting services. Now I'm just going to show you how I set this particular one up, because it's just going to give you an idea of that graph, but what it looks like in a campaign. So we've got 2 campaigns here. One is for commercial and one is for residential services. Now I purely did that just to separate the 2 because we wanted to have a different budget for each of them and put a different amount of money into each. So that's why we separated these 2 campaigns. So if we go into commercial, you can see here that I've got an ad group for commercial and an ad group for industrial. So this is closer to the more broader way of doing it, like the plumbing example, where we didn't have to specifically go to each individual keyword, but we did the different topics. So if we go into, let's say, commercial, now you can see that we've got a bunch of phrase match keywords that have commercial concrete in them. Commercial concreting contractors, commercial concreting companies, commercial polished concrete. Like, these are all quite similar. So that's why they're all in one ad group. Now, you could be more specific with this, and I'll show you the example of the other one we are running. So let's say, for instance, we go back into residential. Now under residential, we have split this up a little bit more because this one's a bit bigger and more broad of a topic. So we've got driveways, and then we have specific types of driveways. So exposed aggregate driveways and colored driveways. And now, if you take a look at these, what we've done is actually excluded colored and exposed from the main driveways ad group, because otherwise that would show up as well. And then we have specific keywords for this. So if we go into this one, you can see here all of the keywords are to do with exposed aggregate driveways. There's no other general keywords. It's just that. And then these ads in this ad group go to a page that talks about exposed aggregate driveways. And if we go back to the ad groups and go into colored, the same thing happens. They're only colored concrete driveway keywords, and they go to a specific colored concrete driveways page. And all of the ads specifically talk about colored concrete driveways. So that's a live example of what this actually looks like in the Google Ads campaign. So that is how I recommend you set them up. I have been doing this now for a long time, and this has got the best consistent results by far doing it this way, because you get the most control over which ad shows for which keyword, what the results are of each keyword, and then you can filter out the ones that are not working as well. You can drop the certain ads, you can replicate the better ads and try and optimize them further and so on, and it gives you the greatest degree of control. So hope you guys found that one useful. If you'd like me to coach you on how to run profitable Google Ads campaigns for only $49 a month, go to learndominatemarketing.com. And if you'd like us to run your Google Ads campaigns for you with guaranteed results, go to dominatemarketing.io and book a call with us there. Catch you on the next one.